everyone, welcome to another book review Wednesday, and today I am going to be addressing the fifth book within A Series of Unfortunate Events series. In case you are unaware, I have been doing all of the books within this series, starting with obviously the first one and going all the way up to the last one, which probably won't be till we get to the 13th book. But we're on the 5th, so if you haven't seen my previous videos on that, they were all done in consecutive order, so you can look back within the past 4 Wednesdays and you will find the videos to where you can watch them. Because it's probably going to be confusing if you watch this video and haven't seen any of the previous ones. Now, this 5th book basically leaves off from where we were in the 4th book. And unfortunately, circumstances didn't go too well as far as the setting that the Baudelaire orphans were placed within the 4th book. So they are now taken to a school where they're basically students. They have another sort of authoritarian figure, a principal, if I could find his name here, Nero, which I think is probably a suitable name considering he's pretty he's pretty nutty, and kind of mean, so that might be an understatement though, but regardless, he's this very, as you can tell just by the image that they display of him on the cover, you can tell that he is fairly intimidating. Like I said within my previous video where I discussed the 4th book, this is a sort of shift into a different setting than usually the Baudelaires were within the first 3 books, because now they're in an actual school. They're not being taken by they're not being taken care of by a specific person, so to speak, and they're kind of just put into this sort of establishment, similar to sort of the 4th book where they were placed in sort of a labor establishment by working at a mill. So the interesting thing about this book, unlike the previous ones actually, is that they actually get a little bit of assistance, because we're actually introduced to some characters who are actually somewhat allies with the Baudelaire orphans, and they're called the Quagmires, and you will see how they sort of identify with the Baudelaire kids and basically the Quagmire kids, because they're in the same school as the Baudelaires. And ultimately we see Count Olaf coming in within this book, similar to all of the other previous installments that I've discussed already. And the plot is somewhat similar in the sense that, they're trying to, they're trying to outsmart Olaf's scheme, and Olaf, as the antagonist, just keeps throwing things at them. But instead of having them having to kind of just do things on their own, or kind of have to rely on one particular child within the group to sort of help each other out, they're now getting some outside kind of assistance. They're sort of finding some sanity within this very kind of bizarre and strange world that the author Lemony Snicket made. And I think that makes it rather unique and offers a very different perspective as far as these books are concerned. It's a little bit more lengthy, as you can see. They get way more lengthy over time. Is it a little more complex? I wouldn't necessarily say so. I don't think it's getting too complicated. It's pretty much on the sort of same level as the fourth book was, but I like how they added in this extra layer of having these other characters, in particular protagonists to the main characters, the Quagmires, and I think that really adds a whole nother layer to the story. And there's a lot more development that comes out of that too, because you'll see how the Quagmires have a lot in common with the Baudelaire orphans. So that's really at the heart of this fifth installment. I really don't want to spoil the plot or give too much away as far as what happens, but there is sort of a repetitious way into which all these books are kind of written and structured, but at the same time they do offer something unique and do progress the story forward. Like, you feel like, you're moving into eventually another part, and it makes you kind of just hungry for more. And I think that's kind of what books like these, in particular this series, do a good job of, is establishing interest in the audience, even if there is a little bit of even if there are certain patterns that kind of exist throughout each book. There is this understanding that it is going to end up leading somewhere. And this book, again, I think it keeps you engaged. You want to ultimately know what happens to the characters, and you kind of see the real sort of tragedy behind a lot of what these poor orphans have to go through. And on the one hand, you feel fairly sorry for them, and I think having it in this kind of structure by providing various books, I think allows the reader to really appreciate the protagonists. So I think ultimately this fifth installment works for what it's trying to ultimately say. Is it perfect? No, but at the same time, I think for children, it's definitely a good read, and even for adults too. I think there is a lot to enjoy about it, even if the author claims that it's full of misery. But yeah, I think that's really ultimately all I can say about this fifth installment. However, if there are any questions, comments, concerns, I'd be more than happy to answer them. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a pleasant day, week, month, and year, and I hope to see you on the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.